Okie dokie. So we should be live. We should be up and running in just a sec. So
Okay,
we
good.
should be. Yep. Classic. When I can hear my own voice, I always accidentally play my own audio every time. Guys, we're here with the wonderful Jamie Samland. Is it JM Samland, pen name?
I go by JM just because it's shorter. It's less characters, so I can use a larger font size. But
Perfect.
yeah, JM.
Makes sense. All right, perfect. Cool. Let's give a little bit of time just for people to filter in and to join over here. So guys, if you're watching, let us know if you can see and hear me and Jamie. Let's refresh the page and so that we know who we're here with. Drop us a comment and let us know where you're actually tuning in from. I would love to know. Whereabouts are you based, Jamie? You're in the States somewhere?
Yes, I'm in Michigan, so Midwest of the United States. Michigan, the southeast side. So if you know Detroit, I'm about 20 minutes outside of Detroit.
Okay, okay. John says hi from the UK. We're like, where's
Hello.
Detroit? We don't know what's going on. We got Jordan from Kansas. Perfect. Guys, welcome back. And we also have Andrew Kyber, who's also a beloved first book coaching person. Cool. Guys, let's get stuck in, and then the rest of you can gradually filter in as we go. We're here with Jamie, J.M. Samland, who is a fairly long-time client of ours now, who actually has 6 novels under his belt currently. So we're going to talk about a couple of things. We're going to talk about his latest book, how he finished and published that one. And we're also going to talk more about his writing journey in general. How did this man manage to finish 6 novels alongside a full-time job and everything else that he's juggling, and managed to do so well with these stories as well? So, Jamie, to get started with, do you want to give us like who is the author J.M. Sutherland? Like, what kind of fiction do you write? And maybe you tell us a little bit about how you got into this as well.
Yeah, so I'm mostly all fantasy. I'm dipping my toe into some more contemporary fiction now, but mostly all fantasy and the historic fantasy, sword and sorcery, epic stuff.
Yeah.
Um, I kind of blame my want to write a book on my fourth grade teacher
Okay.
because I mean, it was 30 years ago. So what I remember her saying is, I was in class and I was writing with a pen, and she said, "You have to use a pencil."
Yeah.
And I said, "But I like the pen." And she says, "You can only write in a pen once you publish the book."
Oh.
So I don't know if he actually did say that or not, but that's just what I remember. So
Okay.
um, back in high school, I was writing basically fan fiction for games that I played, and these online role playing games. And then in college, I tried some more, and then 20 years later, I during the pandemic, I had plenty of time on my hands to
Mm-hmm.
sit down and write. It was so writing a book was always one of the things like high on my list of what I wanted to do.
Yeah.
And when I was getting ready to test for my first degree black belt in Taekwondo, I
Mm.
thought, well, okay, I've wanted to do this for a long time, get a black belt. What else have I wanted to do?
Yeah.
And so I started in earnest with the book, and Realms of Turfwood came out when I was testing for my third degree black belt. So
Awesome. All
it takes
right.
that long.
Anybody else here? You guys want to give us a comment if you're also in that situation right now? Like you're looking at your bucket list,
Yeah.
and the item write a novel is just sitting there on the bucket list, and you've been meaning to get around to it for ages. Yeah,
Mhm.
I think that's quite a relatable situation. Oh, actually, Andrew is also a third degree in Taekwondo.
Oh, wonderful. Oh,
That's right.
congratulations.
I had no idea. I remember that you did martial arts, Andrew, but I didn't know. Same as Jamie. You guys should do a fight sometime. I'll bring you guys both onto the
Oh,
live. We can just like battle of books and taekwondo. So to talk about your latest release. So fantasy fans will find this especially interesting, but I also think regardless of what book you're writing, what genre you're in, you should listen carefully to Jamie's experience, because Jamie now is where a lot of you are wanting to be at some point. And so I think just picking his brains a bit should be helpful for everybody. So I'm gonna take a shot at explaining what the concept of the latest book is. And you can correct me if I get any of the details wrong.
sure.
But basically, set in a fantasy world, a guy's hitting on a girl. He kind of oversteps. She pushes him down a flight of stairs. He breaks his neck. He becomes a ghost. Now, the good thing is, the tagline of this story is that it's a romantic, but let's correct that to necromantic adventure, where she actually has necromantic abilities, and so she captures his ghost before it's able to escape into the afterlife, has her helper pick up the body, and then sets off on a whole adventure from there to try to bring this guy back from the dead, feeling guilty about having killed him in the first place. Is that more or less the gist of it?
Yes, and the added fun thing is that that her companion, her protectorate, Lord Sebastian, is an animated suit of armor with nothing inside. So he just puts himself on around the body to carry it around. So
Okay, oh my god. Yeah, so for anybody who likes like tongue-in-cheek, slightly humorous style of fantasy, this story is going to be a lot of fun. This is actually the third one that you worked on with our team. So we met you about halfway through your writing journey, and you're a really interesting person to talk to, Jamie, because you wrote the first three books without having the help, and then the latter three books with the help. So it's quite interesting to see the differences there.
yes.
Maybe you want to speak to that a little bit. Would you say that you've approached Grave Mistakes, brilliant title by the way, a little bit differently, this being like the third one that you've worked on with us?
Oh, absolutely. It's the second one that I worked with you on, but it's the first one that I worked on from like conception. So the first several books, I pantsed the whole thing. I had a little bit of idea of what I wanted to do. The characters, I knew what the characters were, and I just kind of shoved them into situations, and then whatever happened, happened. And then I came into the program while I was working on Arcanum, and I already had a few chapters built, and I kind of had an idea of what I wanted to do. So I already had a mindset of this is how I want to write this book.
Yeah.
And it was revolutionary to go through the program, and no, I need to the inciting incident needs to happen as soon as possible, and there needs to be character arcs and putting the themes and morals throughout the book. And so I had to kind of fight myself a bit on it because I already wrote all these books and I know what to do, right? But no, I don't. So I forced myself to do Arcanum with the program, and now with Grave Mistakes, it was the first one where I actually posted in the Facebook group with I think 5 ideas for books, and I said which one sounds more interesting, and everyone picked the Grave Mistakes idea. I'm like, well, that's like my third option, but
okay.
So
interesting.
I did it from scratch through the program, and so I had everything planned out. I wrote a couple scenes here and there as they came to mind, but for the most part, I had the whole thing planned out before I started drafting. I knew everything that needed to happen. Cool. And now with this next book, same thing. I have everything planned out. I just need to write it. So
it sounds like, and for anyone that got confused there, when Jamie said this is our second book, the third one is actually on the way. So that one is still in progress, and we'll probably do another interview about that at some point. So it sounds to me like, Jamie, like your imagination is burning just as brightly as it always has. But the difference is that over the past few books, your technique has improved. So
yes,
you've gradually been thinking more carefully about how the books are structured, how you're telling the stories, how you're plotting them, how you're handling the character arcs. And I would actually say, because if anyone's interested, you should definitely check out Jamie's back catalog, because he's got several that are out now, right? This is the 5th one. But your technique and the quality of the way you tell the stories, I think, has strengthened just since Arcanum.
Oh, definitely.
And I think although all of the books are great adventures, I think that Grave Mistakes is even stronger than Arcanum was, and maybe even stronger than the initial 3. I mean, where would you rank it out of everything you've written?
Well, thinking like the first book, I wrote it and then I gave it to developmental editor, and she just like told me to throw away the last 60 pages. Right. And then Arcanum, and I did. It was painful. Arcanum, I don't think I had any wasted material because everything was plotted out nicely. And then with Grave Mistakes, I had a beta reader that had read Arcanum, and she says like, "Wow, this is transformative over what you've done with Arcanum." She said, "This is so good." And I thought that Arcanum was that level above my previous works. So for it to be, even more above, then after all my editing, I read the book so many times, and it happens with every author. You read your book so many times, and you just think it's the worst thing ever.
Right.
And it's not. It's a good book. It's a good book.
Exactly.
Got to tell myself that.
No, it's interesting. Like I think what would be great is if anybody has any questions for Jamie, because again, a lot of you guys are in a place where you're trying to get it ticked off the bucket list and you're working on your first project. Do you guys, the audience, have anything that you would want to ask somebody who is 6 books deep? And if you do have any questions, if you want to drop them in the chat, then we can start to kind of pick Jamie's brain on things. I guess while we're waiting for people to post those questions in, Jamie, what would you say are like some of the key things that you've learned over the last few books, or maybe from working with us, that have improved your abilities as a writer?
The planning is the biggest thing. Being able to plan it out, so I'm able to work on rather than putting foreshadowing in a later edit or later draft. I build that all in to begin with, so I know what's going to happen, so I can leave little clues for it earlier in the text. Things like a moral message or themes or the broader character arcs, making sure that characters develop, slowly or gradually or however maybe quickly, however they need to. I just give it more thoughts and that is the biggest thing, I think, just planning. I didn't plan anything before, now I do.
Yeah, no, I think that's really cool.
There's definitely something to be said about the pantsing and just making it up as you go along. That's a fun exercise, but it does lead to a lot of, I don't want to say wasted time, but time that you will have to redo later.
Yeah, I mean, this is what I always say to people, there's no point being a tyrant about plotting and pantsing. People can write however they want to, but what you'll find with the pantsing side of things is that an awful lot of those people don't finish their books. And a lot of the time it's because when they hit the editing stage, they realize that although the ideas flowed and were really great imaginative ideas, the structure requires so much work to fix because it was never thought through, that a lot of those people lose steam in the editing and just struggle to finish. So if you want to make sure that the process is not just fun, but actually arrives at an end result, learning how to plan, you don't have to be a really meticulous planner. Learning how to plan is a good idea. I got some questions for you. Can I shoot some questions?
Of course, yes.
So Naya asked, does it get easier, Jamie? Like, did you find that the first one was the hardest?
Yes, people ask me that a lot when I'm at shows and stuff, and I say the first book took 20 years to write, and the second one was 5 months. So it's yes, but I have a longer publishing plan now, where I go through beta readers and ARC readers and all that. Now I didn't really do that with the first couple, but yes, it's like ripping off a Band-Aid breaking the seal in some way. Once you get the first one out and you have a feel of it, and when you write the end for the first time, you're like, ooh, I want to do that again. And then you do. And you might think you only have the one idea in you, but no, you can use those same characters, do something else with them, or lots of ideas will come to you. But yes, it definitely did get easier after the first one. Awesome. Knowing it's possible too.
Yeah. And I also think that you kind of find your groove and find your process more as you go through multiple books. And then once you actually have that groove, you're not so much stumbling up a learning curve, but although there's still more to learn, you're kind of just following the process that you're comfortable with. So that's good. Andrew asked if you found beta readers that had not read book 1.
Yes, I found several that hadn't read any of my stuff, and I had a couple that have read all of my stuff. So I wanted some that would be able to give me ideas of basically to my style. Has my style changed, improved, etc. over time? And then others that just hadn't read any of my work and just were able to talk about the book on its own. Grave Mistakes and Arcanum before it were both standalone books, so that was helpful.
Yeah, exactly.
If I do have ideas to turn Arcanum, write another, not really exactly sequel to it, but a continuation of the storyline. And that will be interesting because I'll want to give that to some people that have read the first book and people that haven't. But yeah, I did find several different groups and sites for finding beta readers, and I was really lucky with them this time that everyone got feedback back to me. And you don't always get everything back from everyone, So
Yeah, I think part of that honestly might be to do with how catchy the concept of the book is. And
yes,
might also just be to do with the fact that it's a stronger book. It's not so much difficult for people to finish it because it's a bit of a page turner, this one. So
right,
that's
yes.
uh
Yeah,
Mar
I sent
yeah.
it out on like a sorry, I sent it on like a Monday, and I was getting feedback on Tuesday evening with this one, so people just devoured it.
Wow. Okay, that's good. Yeah, it's
That was
one of my
good. That's good. Sorry, go
Mar
ahead.
Marianne was asking what your editing process is before you upload it to Amazon.
Oh yeah, so that is a process that has developed a whole lot over time. The
Yeah.
first book I wrote the end, and I said, "Cool, I'm just gonna put it up to Amazon. I won't be able to cash the checks fast enough that everyone's gonna buy it." And no, but the process that has definitely improved over time.
Yeah.
I go through reading it myself several times. I have the text to voice programs on the computer that will read it out loud to you. It sounds like a robot reading it, but still hearing it out loud is just activates different things in your mind. Um, and then alpha readers, getting like my partner to read it and getting what feedback he has,
Mhm.
and a couple other really close friends, and then going out to a wider beta group or beta readers
Yeah.
group, getting all that feedback before it goes out. And then this last one, I started doing ARC readers, the advanced reader copy readers,
Nice.
copy readers. So doing that to get people to read it and kind of leave feedback on day one of launch. So yes, the editing, you have to go through plenty of things. You have to make sure that all of the plot lines work out. This last time when I read through it, I had my own notes and I was keeping track of plot threads and what color was somebody's eyes to make sure I didn't contradict myself later. Little
Right.
things like that. But you read through it several times and then you go through it for grammar
Yeah.
and then give it out to somebody.
Your process has gotten a lot more sophisticated, and I think also you started to realize what kind of goes into marketing and how to ensure that you have reviews lined up and things like that. But I think that was a great answer to the question. I'm trying to get through more of these because actually even more people than I expected want to know about you. So um
Hello, everyone.
Polly was asking how important is your outline?
So the outline is the characters will always destroy your outline. If the characters aren't saying and doing things that surprise you, then I don't know. Then maybe you're putting too much pressure on the characters to conform to what you want them to do. So the third book of my trilogy, I was in the last third of it, and one of the characters said something that, oh, that's actually a really good idea. Yeah, why don't we do that? And he was surprising me, and then
Yeah.
I had to work around it because I knew how I wanted it to end, but he ruined it for me. So having the outline is good, and if you start to run into writer's block, you don't know what happens next, then outlining something might help you. If you don't know what happens next, maybe something just recently went wrong. So you go back to your outline and you
I
see
think I
what
think
was supposed to happen and what happened
what
instead.
what we've observed with you and some of the other writers that we've worked with is that the really important thing is just to make sure that the bones of the story are strong. And if the details change along the way, it's not a problem, right? It's
Mhm.
the place where people run into issues. If you, like you said, if you try to outline everything in minute detail, it always ends up changing. Because when you're in the flow of things, the characters just have other ideas. But it's those basic building blocks, things you were talking about, character flaw, inciting incident, goal, antagonist. Once you have those things and you know them clearly, they usually won't change very much as you go. And when people get really discouraged or they really have trouble structuring their books, it's usually not because the small things are changing. It's usually because there's some issue with the bones of the original story. And so I would say if you can learn how to outline at a minimum that basic skeleton, then if the details change along the way, it really doesn't matter too much.
Oh yes.
Let's see how many more of these we can get through. Um, so Naya asked, what are your tips for working through the editing process? And she said she's personally found it much more soul-sucking than writing. Before we go into that, I just want to say you guys might have seen I made a post recently about different writer, like the spectrum of writer personalities, and people who are more inclined towards pantsing tend to have a really tough time with editing because they're so used to the flow of just ideas coming out of them that once things get more technical, they can get a bit discouraged. I don't know if you have anything to comment on that, Jamie.
Yeah, the editing is definitely can be soul sucking because it doesn't feel creative. I
Yeah.
suppose you've already written the thing, and now you're just trying to make it make sense. And um, so, yeah, like, just to probably do it in snippets. If you try to just sit down, this weekend, I'm going to do my whole book at once. No, that sounds absolutely exhausting and draining.
Yeah.
Um, Work on maybe schedule in time to do some other creative projects in between. I'm going to edit 2 chapters and then I'm going to write a short story, or I'm going to, doing this like um, work and reward program to it if you're finding it
Oh,
difficult.
that's a nice idea. Awesome. Okay. Okay.
Mhm.
Clinton was asking, do you use Trello to plan a few stories out and then pick which one you want to write? And he also wanted to know, do you ever think up a character for one story but then decide to put them in a different story?
Yes, yes to both. So Trello, that is, I would say, like the main thing that you get out of the first book coaching program is this wonderful Trello board, and it tells you scene by scene what all needs to happen in it. So you sit down to draft, and you just have to look at that Trello
Uh,
list and say, I just need to make sure all this happens, and then getting between those things is just a matter of a lot of pantsing involved in it, a lot of creative fun. But I don't plan out that much of a story before I pick which one I want to write. Like I have several other books in mind, and it's just a matter of which one maybe would have the most audience, or which one do I have the brain power for at the
yeah.
moment. Because several of the other books I have ideas for going on, continuing with them, but also I'm doing these couple standalones now. And then the idea of coming up with a character that ends up in a different story. So Grave Mistakes was my second attempt at writing what was going to be my first novel,
Yeah.
because it was before I wrote the first book, I was on a long drive and I was coming up with ideas for a book. And you see all these things where the girl falls in love with vampires, or she falls in love with a werewolf, but you never see where a girl falls in love with a ghost. I'm sure there is by now, but I thought,
Yeah.
okay, well, let's do a one where she's in love with a ghost, and she's a noble born, and the ghost is he's some peasant boy, and then she has to go fight a lich or something. So I came up with these characters, and then they changed who they were. So the first book was going to be this girl who falls in love with a ghost,
Yeah.
and then I ended up writing my trilogy instead. And then when I started with Arcanum, it was going to be the same thing, and then that completely changed. That story wasn't what I wanted to write, and so then I did it. Grave Mistakes is the closest, where she has a ghost with her the whole time. There's just not that much romance between them. And then, yeah, the lich was going to be the bad person, and the lich turns out to be her mother. So, so
I love that.
yeah,
Okay, I think we got time for one more.
oh, sure.
Ali Watkins was asking, what do you do to figure out what happens in the middle of the story? Because she has the hardest time with the plot points for Act Two.
Oh, yeah, but that is a difficult one because you don't want it to become a slog through the middle, but
Yeah.
you need to have the things advanced still. Um,
No.
so always, whenever something happens through the middle of the book, if they have success in something, there should still be like one or two other things that go wrong because of it. So you still want to be raising the tensions for the book through the middle, and then it's not till you're towards the end that things start to resolve themselves. So
Yeah.
if it feels like you don't know what's happening in the middle, just give someone a stab wound, or or make something go wrong in the middle,
Fix things
and
up. Yeah.
yeah, don't make things happy too early, and
Yeah.
always make things harder and harder for the characters through the middle. And
Yeah.
it's difficult though. The middle is the hardest part, I think.
It is the hardest part. Ali, if you're struggling with it a little bit, like Jamie was talking about earlier with technique, it's usually not so much a problem of imagination where you just can't come up with any ideas, but it's more a problem of process. Like you don't have a good framework for what the middle of the book should look like. So that's definitely something we can help you with. We have a videos that I've done on that before, so I would check those out. You can drop me a message if you want me to bounce one of those to you. Guys, I think we're pretty much out of time. Jamie, that was so much fun. I like just shooting.
Oh, that went so quickly.
Yeah. I like just shooting questions at you because you're quite experienced at this point, and it's awesome for people who are a bit earlier on in the process to kind of like see what it's like once you start to get to those later stages. And you're doing all kinds of like fun book shows and signings and things at this point. So what would you say to anybody who's in the group who's early on right now? They haven't finished book one yet. They're thinking about, should I have some help with this? Am I too early to have the help? would it make sense for me to look at that? What would your advice be at that point?
I don't think it's ever too early to get help because, like, if I had had help for the first book, I realized the inciting incident for my first book didn't happen until page 70. So it came in pretty quickly, or not quickly, not at all quickly.
Really late. Yeah.
There was a whole lot of character development, and it was slow to start. And were I to do that today, would be a whole lot different, just in what I've learned plotting out 3 books in the program. So it's never too early and it's never too late, because like I came into the program while I was working on Arcanum, and I already had several chapters written, and I had to be okay with just throwing those in the bin because they didn't really match. So
yeah. It's interesting. The thing that I hear from people most often that we end up working with privately is, I think I should have done this a bit earlier on in the process.
Yes. Yeah. It's never too early, it's never too late. Like right now was the perfect time.
Yeah. Awesome, Jamie. Thank you for coming on.
Thank you so much for having me.
For anybody who's like, wow, Jamie's so cool, I would love to get to the point where I have a bunch of books finished and where, like I'm actually ticking this off my bucket list and making this happen. We can definitely show you the same processes that we showed Jamie and show you how to make that happen. If you're curious about exploring that, just drop a yes, please in the chat. Literally, even if you're watching the replay of this, it's fine. Just give me a yes, please in the comments, and I'll drop you a message. We can find a time just to have a really short chat, either with myself or with someone from our really cool team. We have a lovely team now. So you can have a chat with Mark. He's very thespian. He's a nice older gentleman. So you'll enjoy speaking with him. Other than that, yes, whether you're in the free group or you're one of our paid clients, much love to everybody. Let's press on. Let's finish some projects. Thank you, Jamie. I'll wrap things up.
All right. Cheers. Thank you.
Bye for now.